Shema!
And welcome to the channel. Welcome to Beyond Borders. We are getting to know Poland a bit better, and we are going to try and find out a bit more about the country in terms of the dynamics and what is currently happening there at the moment. And something popular that was actually recommended in a couple of our videos a few back was this video over here on why is Poland divided. So
Interesting.
it's a bit different to some of the travel videos that we are normally doing on this channel, but I mean, we want to try and understand all the facets to the country and try and understand a bit more than just the culture and obviously the travel, and dive a bit deeper. So
That is correct. Let's go.
This is a map of the most recent Polish elections. You can clearly see where the conservative government has been defeated by progressive opposition. Wait, no, this is actually a map of all the houses that have bathrooms. This is a map of the most recent Polish houses built before 1945. This is embarrassing. Wait. This is the map of the most recent election. Why do all these maps look the same? This is Poland in 1635, and together with Lithuania, they have a very big country. In modern times, you would have Ukraine here and Belarus, and for some reason, Sweden is hanging out in Estonia, I hope. And by the time of Napoleon, it didn't exist anymore. Poland was unlucky because it was surrounded by some state that decided to become superpowers. Russia, the Habsburg Empire, and the Prussian Empire. They saw Poland as this sort of playground, and they just decided to gobble it all up. It would be 123 years before the Poles would see their country again.
we've kind of seen all of
When
this
they
history
got
before.
occupied, people were making the first hot air balloons. And by the time Poland resurged, they were making televisions. Hey, it's 1922, and it's after the First World War, and Poland is back on the map. Doesn't really look like the Poland we know, but, you know, something. It does, however, confuse Stalin and Hitler so much that they quickly go back to bringing Poland into its occupied state. Like so. And after they introduced their ideas of minimalist architecture in Warsaw and other places, finally we get Poland. Now, this is the Poland we do know. Let's take a moment to reflect on the position of Poland over the years. It's moved a lot. After the Second World War, they moved to the west. So they lost all this land to the Soviets, and they...
So if you can see there, like, and this is what many people say, is that the places that we've been to in Poland are not very good representations of Poland, because both Szczecin and Wrocław were previously part of the German Empire. So it's never really been a good example of Poland and what it's about, because in order to get that experience, you need to go to Warsaw
Or Krakow.
or Kraków, as they say. So that's kind of, I think, what people are trying to tell us, that if we really want the Polish experience, we got to go to like the heart of where actual Poland originates from.
They gained all this land that had been in the hands of Germany for, well, centuries. You can see that in the names of the cities. Danzig becomes Gdansk, Breslau becomes Wrocław, and Stettin becomes... Poland has had their...
Szczecin.
I felt like that guy when I first started saying it. I was saying Szczecin,
Szczecin.
and then eventually I was like, oh no, it's Szczecin.
modern borders for almost 80 years now. And that feels long, but when you look at history, that's just the blink of an eye. And this occupation by the Prussians, by the Russians and the Austro-Hungarians, it left its mark on the people. Not only then, but still nowadays. Last October, Simon Pifcyzk tweeted this map thread. It's 2023, 109 years after World War I started, yet the pre-World War I imperial borders are still visible on the election map of Poland. This thread went viral. As someone who loves how history still influences the present, I had to go talk to him.
I didn't really think too much about it, but then suddenly I saw the borders of the empires from before World War I.
Simon is a Polish map nerd living in San Francisco. He has been obsessed with these borders since he found a special map.
Probably
Do you hear what he said?
Yeah.
Polish map guru living in San Francisco, and by his name and surname, it sounds Polish. So he's probably got Polish ancestral roots, and very interested in his country. And a lot of our viewers watching our channel are all from. A lot of them are from the US, which is very interesting. But a very interesting point on that map as well is the fact that if you look at how it's divided, it's very similar to Berlin and the rest of Germany in similar traits, in that East and West Germany are very much similar in how the cultures were 40, 50 years ago. And even to this day, it's still very evident in the way people vote, how the houses are, how things are divided, economy, rich, poor, very similar traits. So if anything, it just goes to show that history may have come to an end, or things may have come to an end in history, but it still plays a significant role even into today's society.
I think in about the next generation or two, it will kind of level out.
I don't know. I think it takes a lot of time. I don't think things happen overnight. That's been 100 years.
Yeah, no, I guess so.
It will take many, many years, probably 400 or 500 years, I don't know, before things actually settle and normalize.
It's quite sad when there's always so much division within inside of a country, and I think you can see it worldwide. There's really so much division within a lot of countries in the world, and
I just think that it's not often spoken about, but this is kind of the effects that war has long term. So even though it's over, the effects are still felt for many, many years, decades after.
Probably one of the first viral maps I had was a map of access to restrooms inside of someone's house.
So on this map, he suddenly saw the borders, and it didn't stop there.
And since then, I've been doing more and more maps, and then on a lot of them, these borders actually show up.
We have the map of the recent election. It's quite clear that the progressive opposition won out in the western part of Poland. They also won out in the bigger cities, places where people are generally more progressive. The Conservative Party won more in the east. This is a rural region, and it's also a region that is doing not so well as the rest of Poland. You can find some of the poorest provinces here. But why do these maps show the former imperial borders so well?
Maybe not a lot of people realize, but many parts of Western Poland were kind of like the Wild West only 75 years ago.
A lot of this has to do with the end of the Second World War. Stalin keeps this part to the east, and Poland gained all that German land to the west. And now millions of people are forced from their homes, both Germans and Poles. Many Poles settle in this area, this former German lands. And these Polish people, they not only lost their houses, they also lost their traditions, their communities, but also the social control of a place where you've been living for generations. And with less social control, you can do more what you want. And this makes people, less traditional. Another idea is that these migrants invested more in education. The theory is that people that are forced to migrate, they invest in things that are more easy to take with you. And this paper shows how the focus on education in these families is still there this day. You can clearly see the difference in schooling results between those that were forced and those that weren't forced to migrate. Higher education is linked to more progressive views. Another reason why these lands are more progressive could be that they just are closer to Germany. Germany is the biggest economic power on the continent. It's much easier to trade with or work in Germany if you're close. If you zoom out and take a look at the European Union as a whole, the eastern part of Poland is literally at the edge of the EU, further away from economic options. People that are more well off tend to have more liberal views. And in addition, it could also be that eastern Poland is just more rural and older, which makes people more conservative.
I think the more, in general, people that live more in the east are more conservative, more tendency to swing towards the right versus on the western side of Poland, which is more left. And that's like a general trend, but it's very interesting to see and how it plays out. And I think also the fact that those areas were previously, specifically the west side, was previously occupied by Germany, and the roots of its people are not necessarily Polish, I think also plays a significant role in that division.
Yep, 100% agree.
Now, these are some explanations, but reality is complex. And there are more differences in the past that have an effect and still influence people's lives today. To start with, it's not just on the election map that the differences are visible. People in the East and West also have different jobs.
Agriculture is pretty big in the East. Like there are still counties when like 40% of the people working in agriculture, which is, almost unheard of in other developed countries.
But the west of Poland is more focused on industrial and service sectors. But remember that Poland was divided around 1800?
These years are kind of crucial because that's also when the Industrial Revolution started.
When Western economies started to industrialize in the 18th century, Central Europe was like, we'll stick to farming, all right? And this led to differences in, for instance, the railway network. Take this map of the railways around 1900s, and you can see the divide. Western Poland.
Check out is the western side super well connected versus the east, it's like super open.
Oh, that is crazy.
As part of the Prussian Empire, industrialized way more rapidly than those eastern territories under Austro-Hungarian and Russian control. And this amount of industrialization just doesn't change in a generation or two. But it's not just that. How people do agriculture is also different. You can see this from satellite imagery. The plots in the West are just much bigger. Farms are big companies here. They're producing for the market. But in the East, you find a lot more smaller plots. This is a super complicated thing with many explanations. But there are two things that I want to highlight here. Part of the answer is that in the West, it was way more normal that the older son would get all the land. But in the East, especially in Austria-Hungary, farms could be more easily split up between the kids. So then you get all these much smaller plots.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
That's literally like probably generations of people that have had probably massive pieces of land that have had many kids, and it just gets divided and divided and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah, because
That's crazy.
And it's also in the West where the most parts of the land were collectivized under the Soviet government. And for some reason that really didn't go through in the East. And now to those maps that made Simon go viral for the first time. Housing. These maps show when houses are built. In general, the West has older homes built before 1945. This is probably the case because these were German lands. And apart from the cities that got, leveled, the rest of the countryside just didn't get destroyed as much in the war. But in the East, where a lot more houses were built, building bathrooms inside houses were apparently not a big priority for the communist government. Now, I have to say, this is not the definitive explanation. Simon told me that it was also more normal for people to build a toilet outside of their house in these parts, because they thought it was just less unclean, which, I can imagine. But if you're a Polish person and you really know why this divide is there, let us know in the comments.
I'd love to know in the comments in our section, like, why would you build your toilet outside of your house?
I mean, I'm sure my mother would enjoy that. She hates going into to the toilet when there's other people inside the house. So I think she would have enjoyed it if there was a toilet outside.
But I think your mom, it's just more because she doesn't like other people being around when she goes to the toilet. I think for the sounds of it, this is more like hygienic, or is it a communist thing? Like, is it like a thing in the communist countries that people build toilets outside? Like,
I don't know. I think it's hygienic as well.
Let us know in the comments down below what you guys think. Do you guys still do it today? Well, I think today people probably don't do that. They probably have a toilet inside the house.
I think everyone's got a toilet now. Maybe.
Maybe the old houses still.
Could be wrong.
Maybe more eastern Poland doesn't have it.
I actually really want to know. One map that I really liked is the next one.
In Polish language, there is not that many words that start with an A.
So that means there are almost no cities that start with an A. But if you look at the former Russian area, a different picture starts to emerge. Suddenly you do find them. Dots on the map that represent cities with an A. So where does this come from? It has to do with these guys. 3 Tsars called Alexander. So I guess in these lands, if you make a new village, just go for the Tsar. It's probably the best idea. So we have all these maps showing different ways in which Poland is divided. I do have to say that there are also a lot of markers in the modern time that show that these divisions are going away. For instance, if you look at primary school results, and because people are leaving the countrysides for the cities, the old divide makes place for a new one, a divide between city and countryside. This divide is something you see all over the world. But apart from that, I think one thing that this story shows is how much changed in the 20th century for Europe, but especially for Poland. I mean, just look at the modern map of Poland. None of their current neighboring countries even existed 30 years ago. But even though borders can change very fast, there are things that change a lot slower. Things that still have an impact on the people in the present. Like what kind of infrastructure is built? Do you live close to a railway station? What is the economic situation of your region? Has your family always been into farming? In the West, we like to think of ourselves as individuals with free will and the capacity to make choices that impact our lives. But in so many big and small ways, we are the product of our environment.
I like this guy.
Very, very good video in terms of like giving really good context to Poland. Like I haven't seen it in that aspect before.
Yeah. I think one thing that the Polish will always be non-divided about is their food.
You just love food. You just love Polish food. I'd go to say though, I mean,
probably stop talking about their food.
If anything, Eastern Poland is probably more traditional, more conservative. West, less conservative, more modern. And I think it is evident still today. Like he said, it's probably fizzling out. And with the generations to come, with more people moving towards the cities and many people also leaving, it will probably change.
And if there are any other differences between the East and the West that wasn't mentioned, do let us know in the comments down below. It's very interesting. And please tell us why there aren't toilets in the houses.
I'd love to know.
Or why there weren't toilets in the houses.
Please add your thoughts down to the comments down below. We love always hearing what our community has to say. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you stay up to date with all of our latest videos. Until next time though, this is Beyond Borders.
Over and out. Do widzenia!